K-Vision TV.
Good evening, welcome to K-Vision TV Topic of Discussion, a platform where we invite different dignitaries to dissect issues or matters status quo. My name is Ukash International, I'm your host. K-Vision TV is a big deal. Got lots of dignitaries on this platform, on this round table tonight, ranging from economists to politicians. And on our menu tonight, we're going to discuss the value, whether the value of Uganda's public debt is really realized. And two, will make sense of the scientific elections. We quoted the president yesterday in his Heroes Day address, claiming he's about to listen to the scientists on advising him on how or whether the elections shall be conducted or shall move on. And three, we'll talk about the flood victims in camps. How are they living? Life at camps. And what's the way out? To start with, I'll give 30 seconds of introduction and preamble to my guests tonight so that we can start precisely with the topics tonight. You're welcome to K-Vision TV. Welcome once more. I'll start with the extreme right with my economist. He will introduce himself in 10 seconds with a preamble, and then we'll move on to my immediate right hand, then my extreme left. To sum it up, then we can start our issues tonight. You're welcome, boss. Man in the coat.
Host, Lucas Swipe International. I'm called Friams Magribert. That is my name. I'm the teacher or a teacher, and I teach economics and history. Today, I'm happy for the three films they are bringing for us for the public to share with us. Thank you.
Mountain Girl.
Yes.
So you will tell us your names and 30 seconds.
Thank you, Cash International. My name is Sarah Itungu Masereka Waleke, the Mountain Girl. I'm an economist by profession, though I am a decorator by practice and an aspirant for the Woman MP seat, Kasese District.
Oh my God, I'd gotten scared because I hadn't had the aspirant for District Woman MP. I thought you were going to leave that out. You're welcome, boss.
Thank you. My name is David Bradford Unguru. I'm a public health person, and I've been in this district for quite some time. I'm originally a teacher, but I'm a public health person.
You're welcome to K-Vision TV Topical Discussion. I guess my invitations were spot on because all the issues we're out to discuss tonight have people with some quality of expertise to discuss about that. Without wasting much of our time, since we're time conscious, we'll start with a first on our menu, and that is the realization of Uganda'S debt. Earlier on, we remember we got information, or statistics tell us we are getting to 37% of our target of loans, from our public loans. That's say IMF, International Monetary Fund, to mention but a few. Reports from government tell us that we are kind of safe because we've not hit the maximum target of 50% set. We are on 37% set. Before we go to the statistics and many other issues, this is where I want to bring in Mr. Bradford Nguru. Do you see real value for the loans we get as Uganda, public loans?
Uganda borrows money for a purpose. There are needs that we have to work on, and because we need to do them quickly and to get the necessary funds to support the infrastructure, government borrows money to meet those plans. However, sometimes when we borrow more than we need, and therefore our debt may be accumulating unnecessarily. While we have needs, but when we borrow the money, some of it is not utilized according to the plans. And so the debt that is on our shoulders would have been justified, but some of it we have to repay with pain because some of it was swindled by the bureaucrats, or it was overestimated and we have borrowed too much. And sometimes we continue borrowing every time because of the needs, and then we don't supervise or see that it is maximally utilized. So our problem is not the borrowing, but it is the how do we make sure that what we have borrowed is used optimally and to serve the purpose 100%.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. David. This is where I want to chip in, Madam Sarah Itungu. the issue of safety. Are we capacitated as Uganda to borrow the money? Because Mr. David Nguru's claim is that sometimes we borrow more than what we need. So much more than what we need, because loans, we understand we get them for a purpose, and they are beyond our purpose. They are getting higher cumulatively, we are borrowing daily. Are we capacitated to pay the loans? I understand you also took part in designing a document paper to the Ministry of...
To the cabinet.
to the cabinet,
Yes.
to the cabinet about supervision.
2014.
2014.
Yeah.
Was it about supervision or something of the public funds? But the question I wanted to start with is, do we have capacity, or in future shall we have capacity to pay those loans because we are borrowing more than what we need?
Okay. I'll start with the current debt that we have. It's about 48
Trillion.
trillion, 48.9, which is about 49 trillion, and that is about 37% of our GDP. We are really safe, and we don't think we shall go into debt distress, because that percentage, we have to maintain it below 50%. However, what is the challenge? The challenge is the implementation gaps. We have a debt, for example, from World Bank to facilitate MATIP, that those are markets that we have here. For example, we are enjoying a market here in Kasese municipality that is funded by MATIP. But what is the implementation like? Those implementation gaps are the ones that drag us behind schedule to repay our loans. Our loans, as per the Ministry of Finance, they're saying that 99% is utilized. That utilization rate is at 99%. But when you go out to the field and look at these projects that are being implemented, you'll find projects that are stalled, abandoned, behind schedule, and those that are underutilized. The funds are underutilized. We have our Kasese airfield here. Money that was disbursed was about 1.3 billion shillings. By 2014, the utilization rate was 96%, saying that the airfield is done. But however, when you go to the airfield, you find a fence and a runway. A runway, that is all. As a person from Kasese, sincerely, and a person who is a taxpayer, you know, debt is repaid from the taxes that we pay. I feel cheated that this airfield, which was supposed to be elevated to something that is nice.
Because I understand even something to be paid on our debt is supposed to be budgeted in our budget, isn't it?
Yes.
And I'm afraid our loans our public loans are going beyond even our estimated budget.
Not
Currently.
really. Not really.
Are
because-
bigger. So we'll need how many portions in how many years to repay those debts? Or the payment plan, is it in place? Because we are borrowing every day. Even recently, I remember there's one loan pending in Parliament for approval. We have borrowed 1.7 trillion for COVID thing and many others. So don't you think in the future, do you think, according to economic knowledge, do you think payment plan is supposed to be there or is in place or something of the kind?
Of course, the repayment plan is there. Us as a country, we have to enhance and mobilize the tax base, taxation, the revenue, tax revenue, such that we have enough money to repay those loans. We also need to mobilize development partners. There are projects that we may not borrow, but mobilize development partners so that they can take them over and implement them. Then if we are lucky, if we really are lucky and utilize the debt cancellation issue, then it can also help us.
Okay. Before I bring in Gilbert, as an economic analyst, do you see any of the unforeseeable challenges that may arise in payment of our debts? Because they're always there, the foreseeable and the unforeseeable challenges.
The challenge I see as I was chanced in 2014 to be on a team of economists that did monitoring and evaluation of implementation of key government projects that are externally funded. Now, the key challenge is you find projects like, and I'll give you an example of the roadside markets. They are abandoned, not utilized. That means revenue is not coming out. So that is a challenge. You invested in a roadside market, you find material abandoned, no one is using it, so no revenue is coming out. So when revenue is not coming out, we are not,
To be precise, wrongly investing.
Aha.
We are not going to have income immediately.
Yes,
This is why I want to chip in Mr. Gilbert. Mr. Gilbert, you as a economics commentator, a question I want to bring forward to you is, are debts or loans we get as a country a solution to our problems? Is it the only way to go?
Thank you. The question is very good and really can educate the viewers there. I will start with the history of our GDP, which is available, because there are those days where you could not trace it. But they're using the GDP of 1980s to 84.5 there, where the governments were a bit stable, can give us some statistics. We will remember that the public debt in those days, we were at 65.4%. 65.4% of the total GDP. Today, the rate at which we are cumulatively borrowing is 66.5. If you want to compare the two, 84, we were at 84.64. No, before 86, 84, 85, 83 to 80.
Yes.
Our GDP, public debt, had accumulated to the tune of 64.5. Today we are at 66.5.
almost 67.
We are almost at the same stage for those who liberated us. So you question whether the realistic nature of the debt. Number two, economic growth at that time, we may not know it because records were not there. So I'm going to talk about economic growth between 96 up to 2018. In 96 2016, our GDP, according to the Minister of Finance by then, Janet
Aida Bumba,
Mukwaya, some lady.
Janet
She
Mukwaya.
was Janet, I think.
Janet.
She had to claim that we were at 60% increase in growth rate. Today, when our loan scheme has risen to the tune she's telling you 48, we are at 4.3% growth rate. So you are asking us whether there is a real value for what we borrow for. What is the budget? The budget is that it is a planned income vis-a-vis planned expenditure. What would make African countries to plan to spend more than what they can have? One reason is that they are planning to get some money they can put into their pockets vis-a-vis the small service they are going to give the what?
The people.
The people.
And the government, the taxpayer, suffers repayment.
Yes.
It may not think that because the purpose of African governments is not to develop the citizens.
So that is the implementation gap that I was talking about. Yes, you are borrowing. You're getting that money. You're disbursing it. You're disbursing it for a particular project, key project, for example, agriculture or roads. But are those people on the ground utilizing it well? That is where the problem is.
So you'll find that the planning machinery on top has good plans. We'll always plan a different picture from what we are facing down. And that's why they have got to plan to put 1 or 2 point something trillion in the micro business sector. Yet if you follow that money, it will be tied on by an interest rate determined by a commercial bank. I will give an example of the Youth Livelihood Fund, the women operation wealth creation. There is some money they had put into our banks for youth to go in, and I'm a youth, I was entitled to getting it. When I reached there, the manager told me that, do you have a land title? I said, you man, they don't want these things according to the policy we have.
Sure.
I said, okay, if you don't have a title, what is the security that we shall be recovering our money in case you fail? You guys, you think the government gives us money? It understands with us to give you money, but it is we who will know how to give you that money. I said, hey, it is politics, yes. So finally, if you have discovered that economic growth rate are fluctuating the same as they were in 86, 84. The nature of our infrastructure development, the roads we have which are really on the map of the global standards are only those roads which lead to the city or come out of the city. Behind where production takes place, aren't our women carrying their production goods from the mountains on the head? Even when we have more motorages.
No wonder we have a mountain girl who will clarify
To clarify on that, as a mountain girl, I've really moved these mountains, but I appreciate the work on the roads. The roads have been opened, and really, when you go up to Waisum, you will move very well. There's a road that has been opened up around Bugoye, and also Kalsandara Road is going to be taken up.
Okay, to chip in, I wanted Madam Sarah to sum it up all. We have two other topics to discuss on this panel. Madam Sarah, at the point where we are no longer having Heroes Day celebration, where the president will spend billions going to Kapchora or Kasese for national celebrations, Labor Day celebrations, no flights for cabinet, members of parliament and other VIP government officials. Now, don't you think we have enough savings to facilitate some of our needs like the coronavirus pandemic and what, rather than going for more loans?
Thank you for that. Is a saving, yes. However, there's a pandemic. You will not measure the effect, how much the pandemic needs. This country is large and the population is large. Everyone is at home, meaning no one is working, no one is earning. Everyone thinks the government should be there to give them food. Government has to procure food for them and so many other things.
So we are anticipating big, that's why we are getting a lot of money.
We have saved, yes, but we also need some more money to cover up that.
Just in case, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
though I've not seen any ministry bring back balance and say we had a budget of 2 trillion and now we use 1 trillion, so 1 trillion is back to the secretary.
The health sector also requires a lot of money. Right
Mr.
now.
Bradford, to sum it up all, something is itching you.
Yes. Most of these budgets or requests for loans are made in such a way that they are in a hurry, and Parliament has to vote for borrowing as a necessity, as an emergency. So sometimes the negotiations for these processes are very limited. It's done in a way that it will pass because of pressure. We borrow on pressure, and when the money is here, we don't see it trickling down to where it's supposed to be. Our national development plan must have been agreed a 5-year or 3-year or 10-year, so that you have a plan of how you will proceed in the next 10 years. If we have emergencies, there must be a provision for emergencies. So our planning system, we have economists in Ministry of Finance, but they are not helping us much. When they deal with admin units, Kasese has close to 1 million people. Let's say 800,000 people. 800,000 people in Kasese, plus if you compare Kasese, the size of population of Kasese, and the population of Luengo or Ntoroko, the difference is big. Sure. You have about 50,000 people, and these are 800,000 people. But when they are planning for us, they do it equally. Oh dear. Each district receives 163 million for COVID. I find that unfair. Whether it's big or small. So are they thinking about the numbers? When we talk about GDP, you are comparing the income, James' income with Tom's income. James earns 10 million. I earn 10,000. So you look you say everyone is okay because on average, so you share this money. It's like one time when Honorable Mao gave an illustration on one of the TV programs, said, if my head is in the oven and my feet are in the freezer, you will say on average, Honorable Mao is okay. But so when you say our GDP, our population is well off, you are sharing the amount of rich people with the poor, and you think you're all right. Oh dear. You are talking about statistics on a national level, but you don't see in the village how are they faring. Village, or it may be more so at district level. We may talk about good roads in Kampala, but I live on a tourism road from Chisanyarazi to Nyakalengije. Drive there and see.
Yeah,
is
it's really
very,
bad.
very bad.
Yeah, it's
And
bad.
yet government, through the policy on tourism, said all tourism roads must be tarmacked. You never know, it may be tarmacked in the books, but you come there and see. So sometimes
That's
is
Bradford
true, what
Guru
he's
says
saying.
many of the roads could be tarmacked in books,
Yeah.
and yet in actual sense they are not. And the other appeal is saying statistics per district. That's how this should be monetized. In terms of in monetary terms, we need to look at statistics rather than averaging all districts together. I'm afraid I need to cut you all short, and we go to our next topic, which is the scientific election. We are here to have scientific election according to the president. We got a president claiming he's waiting for scientists to guide him on whether elections can move on or on the mode we can have our elections. So according to how all things status quo are being done, or according to how things are moving at the moment, all things are scientific. Yesterday we watched the presidential address and celebration of the Heroes Day. Was all more of scientific. He's advocating for scientific weddings and burials.
Yes.
He's also condemning all people who had started converging for burials. Yes. So I assume we'll have a scientific election. Though there are other modes we could have. Burundi did one. How can I call it? Do or die?
I believe so.
Can I call it do or die?
Not really. That was their
their
schedule.
Burundi decided to do a do or die, come what may. Election, it was conducted, and unfortunately, they don't have cases like we have. We who are in lockdown and who are afraid of doing or having an election.
They are claiming that the president died of COVID.
I know, it was heart attack. That's social media talk. I need to confirm, I think, more than that. That's social media talk. And another mode that could arise is use of our gadgets. I think that's a scientific mode where you have to use our radio stations, our online TVs, our TVs, our radio stations. They may not necessarily be interfacing with your voters. Some clever boys around town say it is a matter of saying the incumbents should just go back to their seats. I want to know what my panelists think about that. To start with, I'll start with Mr. Bradford Guru, who was actually talking about statistics or economists now of statistics.
Yeah.
Mr. Bradford, what kind of a picture are you anticipating for elections, especially when the president says it is going now to medical, though it has a constitutional provision that for any election to be extended, the state has to be declared on emergency, and the speaker takes over. So what kind of a picture do you have when you hear about elections at this point?
The mode of elections has always changed. If for us who were here in 1980, the type of election we had in 1980 is far different from what we have the past few years. We had different boxes for different parties or different candidates. Now, it was improved that you don't have to have different boxes, but you have ballot papers which go in the same box. As COVID came in, we had to change our way of thinking. When the president talks about scientific methods of weddings or funerals, we will change with times. It needs a conversation of all stakeholders to plan how shall we conduct this. It should not be left to the president to say, do it this way. But when he says scientific, all stakeholders must agree on the scientific method, because some may feel disadvantaged. They may say, for example, in such a country, they had elections in the midst of COVID, and they had results that were credible, and the cases are not as many. But I have disputed over that. Sometimes cases may increase because of your testing capacity. They may not have testing kits, so they may think there's nothing. Now, let's look at Uganda. Let all stakeholders agree, all party leaders come together. Conversations at regional and district level should go on, so that when a method is agreed through this process, everyone will be satisfied. Physical distancing, what they call social distancing. How shall it be done? Instead of holding elections on 2 different days, can we summarize in 1 day? So that we have all categories of elections done on 1 day to avoid repeat gatherings. If elections run from
Now
7,
let's go to the mode
for
of
example.
campaign.
Yes, the mode of campaign.
Do you think
With-
you'll have with
with
that
the
scientific?
digital age,
Do you have
yeah.
in any chance whatsoever to meet with your to meet directly with your electorate?
If the president fulfills his pledge of 2 TVs per village, yeah, depending on the size of the screen, we can use these TVs if everyone has access to airtime on
My
TV.
village in Klembekota may have more than 4,000 residents, so it means on average it shall be 2,000 per screen.
You know,
and is there social distance?
I lived in England for 10 years, and I participated in elections in England. We never had rallies. We had elections without rallies. Why? Because they were using the postal service. Campaign materials came through my door. They delivered campaign materials through the door. The postman came around the village dropping campaign materials.
We have six. That is too good in 6
Right.
months.
The post system here collapsed. I don't know when you last used the post system.
I use it.
You use it?
Yes.
I don't remember when I last used the post. I don't know the stamp how it looks like anymore. Now, if you look at mobile phones, we have everyone almost, our coverage, about 17 million people in Uganda or more have mobile phones.
Yeah, that's true.
They can access information by the phone. At least urban centers, every 10 households, there must be TV. Now, we have over 200 FM radios in the country.
Yeah, we have, but TVs not in the mountains. Mountain girl, really?
We
They are
have,
radios.
we have FM radios.
They are radios.
There's
Yeah.
not even electricity. I understand in some
They
parts
use
there.
cells
We can
for the
use
radios.
balloons, banners, posters, without having people together. Churches have been conducting services
Balloons,
every
and,
Sabbath.
balloons and banners. We
Yes.
still have a very big percentage of the illiterate.
Yes.
And those ones who are illiterate, they can read but they cannot interpret. We also have that class. Someone you need to explain to. We are still living in a society where others are based on or have to live on mindset. You get the point?
You know, when the
We still have leadership of charisma in Kasese.
when the
Nanga
rhythm,
Viribua. You get the point?
Yeah.
That is the issue, like the radio.
So,
They listen
when
to
the
radio.
rhythm of the drum changes, you don't maintain the same pace of dancing. You have to change.
We change.
Now that we are in the season of scientific stuff,
Sure.
we shall all tune and turn scientific.
Okay.
Instead of changing the constitution, we'd rather change our method.
Though I know the constitution of Uganda could change in just a blink of an eye. It's just a blink of an eye. This is why I want to bring in the mountain girl.
Yes.
Madam Sarah Itungu, you're an aspirant in NRM. And I had the NRM secretariat was advocating for, how do they call it in English? Erimano kwa muongo.
Lining.
Type of lining up on the
Yeah,
back.
lining up.
On the bank, eh?
Yes.
On the back, election. Kindly give me a picture of how you think that can happen and social distance be practiced.
During COVID. During COVID.
And how can it be like
It's
for
really
a district woman
unrealistic.
MP? So you'll have a representative every village and they're lining on his back?
Okay, initially, the lining up system was to have a representative in every village so that they have your poster and they line up behind you. However, like Mr. Bradford has said, when the rhythm of the drum changes, the dancing changes. We are amidst a pandemic. The president himself says crowding is like committing suicide or attempted murder. Meaning that we have to adjust to these situations and change some modalities. Now, when you talk about lining up in COVID with 2 meters apart, the line in Kilimbekotas could reach where? Could reach Kamaiva, just one polling station. So, to change that rhythm of the drum such that we dance well, probably we can advise that we go into the ballot.
And multiple polling stations in the village to avoid congestion.
No, for the ballots, everyone comes at their own timing. You can set up a desk where that you give chance to someone to go and cast their vote, give
Because
them a distance,
we're always in long queues,
and the other
in a
person
voting,
goes. Just
especially
like,
NRM primary elections. You know you have the numbers. I've seen your primary elections around, not like for Mr. Bradford, that is always the electoral college. I want to chip you in later. They had electoral college. There's a lot of bribing in that system. So
But however,
you have numbers, and there are always long queues on voting. Do you think you'll have enough time for all the voters to vote?
Yeah, because now, for example, we are in COVID. People are still going to hospitals. Hospitals have queues. But the way hospitals have managed is to give a space. We are going to banks. Banks have queues. But when you go to a banking hall, you find that they have spaced the chairs. Even outside the banking hall, they have ensured they space the chairs 2 meters. That means they are changing the ways of working. When it's election time, that day of voting, it can also be set the same way. You put a certain like ropes, certain meters. Say the person who is going to vote, the next one should stand here.
I've seen in banks they have marks where you have to stand.
Something like that. Even pharmacies have marks.
Sure.
So that could be of help. Now, when it comes to the how should we campaign, this Mr. Bradford is international. He has told you the international view. But when you come to the local view, we have, of course, the radio stations that are there. People can utilize them. We have these local mizindaros that we have here. In almost all the villages have those mizindaros.
And there are some I always see, especially for individuals. I always see them during campaign times.
The small
People are
ones.
singing Mountain Girl, Bradford, and they have a lot of poems, a lot of rhymes.
Megaphone.
The megaphone.
Yes.
Then we also have, if someone is able to probably put to have a vehicle, have DJs and what
Public address system.
Public address system to publicize them, it can do well for someone.
Okay, I'm going to chip you in back in summing up this topic for making sense of scientific elections. Mr. Gilbert, this is where I have to bring you in. Is it realistic for us to have scientific election?
Okay.
Especially after Burundi has had their own successfully. Can't you go and benchmark from Burundi?
Science, the one we studied, and the science in this era, two different things. Science in this era means doing the unexpected, doing the impossible possible. Scientific has made abnormal things look normal. And be careful that after COVID, more abnormal things will continue to be what?
To be normal.
We have scientific elections in Uganda from the past. We have scientific elections in Africa from the past, and we are already challenged in what? In courts. This time around, you're going to have a scientific election which will be legally accepted because it is COVID situation. In DRC, they had a scientific one, where some provinces voted, others didn't. In Kampala, just the last 2016 general elections, some polling stations voted, others didn't vote. So it was challenged in courts. This time around, if it happens, it is normal because it is a pandemic. So if you start looking at the way things are going, I normally tell people, Uganda's constitution is not a bind. In a trick of an eye, what you are saying is not happening will happen because people have numbers.
It's just a blink of an eye. To sum it up, Gilbert, we need to go to a third topic.
Telling us about megaphones, posters, and so on. Last general elections, you'd find early morning, yellow on a particular wall. At night, another point comes, removes it and puts another color. Scientific. It was challengeable. Next time it will be what? Legal acceptable. Radio station. One candidate can freely accept air. Another one is blocked. It was illegal, but this time it's going to be what? Legal, because it is scientific. So that is not a realistic approach to think about. Instead, you are thinking about how injustices are going to become what? No. Thank you.
Do you agree with the fallacy that incumbents have a high chance of winning?
Actually,
in this pandemic?
It's not a fallacy. It is a reality that if you are in a control seat, especially in Uganda, where the one on has accumulated a lot of abnormal wealth from taxpayers' money, has the ability to call the EC, has the ability to command the deployment, is already ahead of you.
Okay. Madam Sarah, you will sum this up. I see something itching. You want to say something, but you're going to sum it up. Mr. Bradford, ahead of these scientific elections, I want you to unlock this mindset. You always have your primary elections as FDC in Electoral College, and rumor has it that there's a lot of bribery. That Electoral College, they're assured of there are 2-3 million whenever it comes to
not
vetting.
all rumors are true.
You're true. That's why I want you to authenticate.
I want to assure the public that FDC primary elections do not depend on money. We have members who may even refuse your 10,000 or 100,000 because they are more patriotic in the party.
I know Saulo Mate can do that.
So, well, the membership in FDC is not swayed by cash. The cancer of cash is growing slowly, but has not yet corrupted to that level. Yeah, at least for the time being. I don't know how many. The next 2 cycles we may also be corrupted.
Okay, his name
But
is
we are
Bradford.
doing everything
He's also
possible
aspirant
to make sure
FDC municipal MP.
Okay,
So he wants to unseat Robert Centenary, who's the incumbent. Madam Sarah Itungu, you had something before we close this topic.
Yeah, thank you, Cash International. What I have to say is, going forward, let us look at the guidelines that the government is going to put in place, because the president himself has said he's putting up scientists to look into that issue. So let them look at the pros and cons. The economist here has talked about those other irregularities that are going to be normal. Probably they will look at them, do an analysis, and come out with the best guidelines that will take this election on.
Okay, that's nice of you. I think Madam Sarah calls for looking up to the guidelines that are going to be provided by government, though I would have advocated for constitution implementation in this instance. What's the constitution provision? Can we extend the elections? Can we do that? We follow the constitution? We amend the constitution.
The provision.
Sure.
Some
6
provisions
months.
are entrenched.
6 months.
They are very entrenched that the president may not continue in the seat beyond 12th of May.
Sure.
So if he weighs the two, we are better off doing an election than a crisis of handing over to someone else.
Okay.
Yes. We'd rather, yeah.
I'm afraid we are almost out of time, but in one minute we'll discuss about the state of life of people in camps. How are they living and what's their way forward? To start with is Madam Sarah Itungu. You've been in many camps, almost all.
Yes.
I've seen you, I've been following you. What is the state of people in camps and the way forward? Especially amid these claims that the district authorities are trying to push them away. Say, Mnanga, you have to go and forge your way back to life again. Yet they don't have the beginning. And eventually rumors came that there are plans to slice part of Mubuku Forest Reserve for them. So even those ones who would have alternative have decided to stay so that they can have their slot there. Madam Sarah, your general overview.
My general overview on
And
the
then give
floods.
us a way forward, because you're not going to get a chance to speak again.
Okay, thank you, International. This flood issue came amid this COVID. When you look at all the camps in the district, most of them are really populated. And they're getting some support, some relief, but we need lasting solutions. Now, when I went to Kilembe mines, I realized that maybe we need a lot of interventions in both the camps and also to people in the camps are crying out that they are not getting relief, that it's stopping somewhere, it's not reaching them. So who is in charge here? Can those people work with the camp administration such that relief is reached there? But for me, my issue is not now on the people in the camps right now. What I need from government is a lasting solution. I was in Chiraro in Chitolo a few days ago, where landslides have swept all the hills. Now, when you look at that hill, you will see that where there are trees planted, a slide was not there. But where there are no trees, there's a slide. Now, in Bududa, the government was able to relocate people, build for them good houses, and they go back to their gardens to plant, to harvest, and maybe plant trees. The same ideology can be put in Kasese. Our people are suffering. We have seen that every year in the month of May, there is a flood in Kasese, there is landslide and all those issues. Now, instead of giving relief every year and putting people in the camps, why don't we do such interventions that can help us continuously? On the riverbanks, in the past, I was talking to my dad, he's a former miner. He said there was an annual desilting of that river, of Nyamwamba River, annual. But now we don't have it. Can't government support that project of annually distilling the river? Yes. put a budget for it, for Kasese. Let it be a program for Kasese Nyamamba project, annual desilting of the river. When the riverbed is deeper, the water will not flood into our homes. Now, another issue is to sensitize the people that stay near the rivers. Also, how the river was managed in the past. Those that were near the river were discouraged from carrying out agricultural activity. Right now, we have people who are coming out to say, plant the bamboo. It will help you economically, and it will help to retain the water so that it does not disperse within the people.
In 30 seconds, Gilbert, then Mr. Nguru will have 20 seconds to sum it up. Mr. Gilbert, what is the way forward for our relief, for our flood victims in camps?
Thank you very much.
Stick on the way forward.
Yeah, the way forward is that the government should start feeling concerned over the citizens. Number one, let those who are issuing land titles in gazetted waterways to stop. That's the government intervention, number one. If they were not allowed to settle there, they wouldn't have them now as the victims of the floods. Number two, if the system which was left by Canadians was maintained regularly, wouldn't have that disaster. If the government reliefs were coming, because I have a feeling that if you are watching TV, every time the government says, we are sending relief of 100 beds, 10 sacks of posho to the district of Kasese, and what? Early morning you wait, you don't see that van. What does it mean to me as an economist? The van you showed on TV to be heading to Kasese, when it reaches Usega, it turns back to the city, and the following day another ministry uses the same truck that it is going where? To another district. I rest my case.
That's Gilbert. Mr. Bradford, strictly in 20 seconds, what is the way forward? Stick on the way forward.
Yes, my colleague has just talked about land titles. In Kasese, people who have land titles are very few. So most settlers are spontaneous, they live on customary land, and we don't have extension workers to supervise and guide the local population. In the late 80s, when NRM was in charge, we had cadres, we had social mobilizers who used to hold meetings with the communities, mobilize them on key issues. I don't see those cadres anymore.
Sure.
Our population has grown to the level that the explosion in Kasese, given the land size, Kasese may be big geographically, but the land for habitation is very small because most of it is protected area. And so we are growing beyond the size. Then we have two problems. We have COVID, we have floods. Those who did not have, those who are not affected, those whose houses were not swept in the flood, they were already vulnerable because of COVID. They were waiting for the president's food before the floods came. When the floods came, the problem became worse. So now we are helping two kinds of people in the same period. So according to my sister here, yes, people in the camp, some of them did not have problems. But
they were not affected.
Kilembe, if you go to Kilembe, if you were in Kilembe in early 80s and you go there now, you will cry.
There's a big change.
Because it is in ruins. Everyone who lived in Kilembe before the flood.
Some people are in the camps because they're hungry, not because they were affected by floods. I'm afraid, Mr. David, I have to cut you short. We are out of time. We are out of time.
As an economist and someone who would utilize a pandemic or a bad situation, when you go to Kilembe, you find a lot of deposits of stones. People should utilize it. We can do quarries there. And quarry that stone, get money.
You can buy the stones. Yeah.
So you can use a disaster as a fortune.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being part of this show. This is K Vision TV. We are shooting live from Cafe Olimako, the only place you can have fast coffee, fast foods, in fried chicken, chips, pizzas, sandwiches, the best African coffee, to mention but a few. Like always, Jerome insists, this is the best coffee in Western Uganda. Thanks for being part of the show. Don't forget to subscribe, smash a like on this video, and of course click on the notification button so that you never miss any of our uploads. On behalf of the whole team, from Gilbert the economist, the mountain girl, Madam Sarah Itungu, and Mr. Bradford on my extreme left, my name is Ukash International, and I'm the host. Keep it K Vision TV. We are a big deal.
Okay. Thank you.
K Vision TV.